God changed my walk with fitness. So, walk with me today while I almost threw the remote, talk to you guys about my walk with God and the way that it really changed the way that I look at fitness. I really wanted to make this video for a little while, and I honestly haven't felt like I knew how to do that or had the right words. And I'm not really even sure I still do, but I'm going to try my best today because I think it's a really important conversation for us as Christians to have. And if you're not a Christian watching this video, I understand. I'm not here to pass judgment on you. That's not what this video is. That's not me pretending I'm perfect or holier than thou or any of those things. I just want to show you what God looks like for me and hopefully inspire you if you feel called to watch this video or, you were curious about this video to, maybe have a conversation with him for yourself and let him show you himself because I can't do that. All I can do is, walk and be human and fallible and be thankful and grateful every day for the body that God gave me and for the fact that He continues to show mercy, even though I am a very, very, very fallible human. And I think that really that's truly one of the things that getting closer and walking with God has really shown me is just how fallible I really am. And when you think about something like fitness, I think, for me in particular, I can't speak for everybody. I'm not going to pretend to, but I think one of the challenging things about fitness and, even the term like self care can feel very selfish, right? Because you are, in fact, like taking care of your body. And so I think that's oftentimes why it's easy to get stuck and was certainly easy for me to get stuck in like doing it for me and showing up for me. And if you've ever watched this video here, it's the original video I posted on like how I lost the weight and all that sort of stuff. And I don't really like that video. Well, I don't really like watching that video, I should say. It does make me pretty emotional to watch it. And so I haven't really watched it in a while. But one of the interesting things is that in that season and even after I like shortly after I made that video, I did not see God in like working. But as I reflect back on it and I am looking for him, I see he was showing up in all of the ways and all of the pages. I don't think it was an accident that, Caroline Gervian showed up on my YouTube page. I don't think it was an accident that my husband decided to invest in a Whoop just a few short months before all of this. Like, I don't think any of that was an accident. And you can disagree with me if you want. I understand. I know to some this will not make sense. And I'm okay with that. It's taken me a long time to be okay with that, but I want to do what I think God is telling me to do, which is to share a bit of my testimony with you. And so that is precisely what this video really is. Because one of the things, and it's very easy, like I said, to kind of get back to what I was saying, is I think it's very easy to get caught up into fitness and be very focused on you, especially if you're like me and you started with like weight loss goals in mind or, sort of vanity goals. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with vanity goals or wanting to get stronger or anything like that. I'm really not saying that. But I think it can get very easy to get kind of caught up in that worldly like number on the scale or what does my body look like in the mirror or like do I have abs and all of that sort of stuff. And again, there's nothing really wrong with that per se from my vantage point. But what I will say is it's easy to get caught in that trap, right? It's easy to get caught in the rat race of seeing other people, especially when you make fitness content, man. You start to judge yourself maybe sometimes even harder because you're like, oh well, this fitness creator looks like this. Why don't I have a six pack? Even though my logical brain knows that six pack is nutrition and six pack is also somewhat biological and genetic in nature. Does that change anything? No, not sometimes. Sometimes I look at those people and I go, man, she's super fit. I'm not super fit. What am I talking about? And some of you are going to look at me and you're going to go, Alexandria, you're super fit. What the heck are you talking about? And others of you are going to look at me and you're going to go, yeah, you're right. You're not that fit, Queen. I'm okay with either of those really at this point. All that to say is that my walk with God has shown me that that's not really the point. The point is not about the number on the scale. The point is not about how strong am I. The point is not to lift the heaviest at the gym or be the fittest or whatever. The point is to take care of my body. The point is to shepherd my body because it's the only one I get. Like if you were told you were only going to get one car for the rest of your life, and that was the only car you would ever get to have, you sure as heck wouldn't be going around putting crappy gas in it or like not taking care of the belts. I probably shouldn't have used a car analogy. I know next to nothing about cars, but stay with me here. My point being, your body's the only one you get. So why would we not shepherd it and take care of it in the same way we would if we only thought we were ever going to have one of some other item, right? And that's what I've really learned. And probably, if you've watched any of my content, you will notice that there has been a lot of shift in my perspective, even from starting with like the weight loss stuff and sort of pivoting and shifting. Because what I've learned and come to realize in my walk and talk with God is that that's not what it's about, right? It really is about just being healthier. And the whole point of being in this workout room is to be able to go and do the things and live the life and show the people God's goodness. And you can't do that if you aren't already taking care of what's in here. And so my hope is to really, the goal of this channel has really become to, show God's love to other people and help them to show up for themselves. And I know some of you, if you're like me, you're in a season of like a lot of self doubt and you're in a season of like not really sure. And I know a lot of the videos I make are on like mindset and mental health because I am a mental health provider. That's what I do for a career. That I think is what God has called me to do. Some days I feel better at it than others, if I'm being honest with you. Ooh, it's a super vulnerable video. But, I say all that to say that, the point of the work that we do is to be able to go and live our lives and to help as many people as possible. And the mindset stuff, I think, gets so underestimated. And really, what's interesting is, and again, I go back to, I don't think it was an accident that I ended up on Noom because Noom basically takes psychology and helps you with weight loss. And it was making those connections that got me to the place I was to losing the weight and understanding the nutrition and all the things that that we talk about together today. That's where all this started. Like that's where I learned a lot of the stuff. And then I just sort of like compounded from there. And then personal experience sort of like took over in a lot of cases. And so because of that, I don't think it's an accident that I understand what the psychology of weight loss looks like in my own story because it makes it easier to relate to those of you out there who that's also your shared story. You've been in that super low place. You got to a place where maybe you weren't taking the best care of your body. You weren't taking the best care of your mind. And the really fascinating thing to me, and no, I can't quote any scriptures today. I'm not going to pretend that I can. I will link some in the description bar though. I would love to be that person. I'm not there yet. Like I said, I'm still figuring it out. So I asked for your grace on that. But the fascinating thing is the way that scripture teaches you to think and about your mindset is also the same things that work in the world of psychology. And I learned the world of psychology first. I grew up as a Christian. I've called myself a Christian my whole life, but my walk with God has deepened after having our son. If you've watched that video, if you haven't, I will link it. It is good, but it is certainly missing the religious aspect that this video is going to give you today. But without getting into too much detail and hopefully crying again, I was at a very, very low place after having our son and not being able to pump for him, not being able to feed him in the way that I had hoped and needing to pump. I was at a very, very low place in my life. And I very vividly remember that picture at Thanksgiving. I've told the story multiple times. There was a picture of me at Thanksgiving, and I looked at myself in that photo and I thought, who's that? And the truth of the matter is I had stopped really taking care of myself a lot longer than before that. Like it had gotten worse. That had made it worse. The postpartum depression and anxiety made it worse. But the truth of the matter is, I hadn't really been taking care of myself as a person, feeling my body well. I was going and I was like doing some dance workouts. Sorry, I've told these stories a lot, but they're just the stories. That's what I got. I went to the gym and I would do like dance workouts, which were fun, but I wasn't doing the rest of the work, right? I wasn't really like eating well. I wasn't taking care of my body. I was doing a little bit of movement, but I could have been doing a lot more. And I had kind of let laziness and probably work overwhelm to some extent take over. I think one of the really interesting things about working in mental health is you really do have to guard your physical health when you're working in mental health because, you're being afforded the opportunity to walk along with someone who's having a hard time. But that means you're also kind of helping to carry that load with them sometimes. And so, regardless of if you've got your own stuff going on too in the background, you spend your day walking through other people's pain and hurt so that you can hopefully help them come out on the other side. And I think a lot of people think that therapy is, well, my therapist is going to go and give me advice on this thing, and that's not really what we do. There's a lot of misconceptions about that, especially because of the television shows. So many of those are so terrible, gosh. Anyway, I say all that to say that when you carry all of that as much as you do, you really do have to guard your physical health because, as many of y'all know, stress has a significant impact on things. And, certainly, and I'm not saying this to be ungrateful. I'm immensely grateful for all the people who are willing to trust me with their stories, with their pain. I say this to say that it's still a heavy load to carry, right? It's still stress on the body. And so, because of that, you really do have to be even more cognizant. And I'm sure there are other careers like this too. Like I think about like nurses, maybe some doctors, depending on what kind of doctor you are, things like that, hospice folks, those kind of people who all kind of share and carry that sort of like mental load with them, or parents, parents with um, really just parents, really just parents, period. But parents, who have children who have, special needs or need special support, things like that. And, there are plenty of a thousand other things. I'm not trying to negate anyone's experience. My point being though is that I'd already stopped taking care of myself. But I think hitting that rock bottom is what it took to show me that something needed to make change. And so I think it is really interesting the way that mental health sort of like loops into this whole story. And the other thing I also think is really interesting, and one of the reasons that I think the mental health piece is so important is because one of the things I struggled with for a long time in my profession is feeling like I needed to fix things that were not fixable by me because unfortunately, or fortunately, probably really fortunately, I am not all knowing. I am not all powerful. And thank goodness for that because whew, nobody needs me in charge. But where, it was really stressing me out that so many people were coming to me and I felt like I needed to fix their problems for them. And the reality of it is that I cannot. I am human, I am fallible. And I am thankful that there is a God who is a waymaker, who is a miracle worker. And does that mean he's always going to answer and solve all the problems? No. Does that mean that life is always going to be perfect? No, definitely not. But it has given me much peace about things, knowing that in spite of my fallibility, is that a word? In spite of that, I have the ability to help other people in the best that I can. And I need to leave the rest to him. And so I'm sure that some of you watch my YouTube content about fitness and weight loss and the beliefs that you have, and you think, Alexandria, that doesn't seem possible. Like, what do you mean? How could that possibly be biblical? And what's interesting is that, trusting God and asking him for help has been, I don't even know how to put this into words. It's changed my life, understanding that he's there. And what's really cool is that when you look for him, you can find him in the most interesting places. And I really do genuinely believe that he wants to help us. He's not going to make you choose him. But if you choose him, he wants to make your life better. I really do genuinely believe that. I truly believe that. And I'm thankful that he continues to choose me. And so again, if you're not a Christian and you're watching this video, I just hope that you can look at this with grace and not judgment. And if you're watching this video, I'm curious why. What made you click on this video? Maybe that was God trying to reach you. I don't pretend to know. And if you're watching this video because you're not really sure, my suggestion and the thing that's worked the best for me is just talk to God about it. Go to him directly. Ask him for help, ask him for guidance, ask him for wisdom. Learning to pray has been interesting and figuring out what that looks like. Again, I don't pretend to be an expert here. I'm certainly no pastor. I'm just a woman trying to walk with God and find life and make a difference and hopefully reach our world. So I hope this video has served to help you in some way today. I'm sure I've missed a bunch of stuff, and watching this back and editing, I'm probably going to go, Alex, why'd you say that? Or you left this part out. And so if you have questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And I would love to hear your story too. If your story is similar to mine, if it's different to mine, I really don't care. Or if you'd just like me to pray for you, you can leave those in the comments too. So thank you so much for watching. And if you love it here, if we're vibing, subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I'll catch you next time. Bye, friends.